guys! Welcome to the first of a three-part series that I am so excited about. Making a blank with me. Now when I say making a blank, it is the beginning stages of making a reed. I am so excited to film this because every bassoonist that I have ever had the opportunity to, I have tried to sit down and make a reed with them because there are a million different ways to make reeds and my style is ever evolving. In this video I'll be presenting what I do that I know that works and what I've consistently seen great results with. This is my go-to method, but I love trying different new tips and tricks that other people have, and I'm hoping that you might like to see what it is that I do in the style of reed making. So let's get started. Here's what you're going to need in order to follow along. And I will leave this list as well in the description box down below, so you can print it off like a recipe list. You're going to need water in a dish in order to soak the cane, a piece of gouge-shaped and profiled cane, a sharp pencil, cotton twine, a ruler. Be sure to get a good one that has 0 at the very edge and that is relatively thin so you can get right up on that piece of cane. Be sure to buy a fresh razor blade. This next one is not mandatory, but I find that it works more effectively than a wooden dowel. A wine cork. If you are not over 21, ask somebody else to give you the wine cork. 400 wet dry sandpaper, a nail punch, 22 gauge brass wire, and a set of REIGER pliers. Okay, so step one, I take the piece of gouge-shaped and profiled cane. Here I'm using a Côte d'Azur piece because I am doing the cane trials, and that is one of the types of cane that I'm trying. And I put it in to soak in the water for an hour. While it's soaking, I also add in the piece of cotton twine. Now, I don't soak the cane for more than an hour, largely because a lot of the cane that I end up loving is a good hard piece of cane, and hard cane, if it absorbs too much water, has a tendency to crack more. It's like the fibers absorb too much water, and then when you actually put it into the forming stage, that water has to displace, and as it displaces, it can cause a crack. So I soak for only an hour, and this is also helpful for scientific results so that I'm doing a consistent scientific method regularly and not changing things up so that I know if the cane is doing something differently. After the cane has soaked for an hour, I remove the cane from the water. I take my wine cork and a square of the 400 wet dry sandpaper that is slightly dampened, and I sand the inner tube of both sides of the gouge-shaped and profiled cane. By doing this, I'm removing some of those pithy fibers and I'm making sure that it's absolutely smooth on the inside. For me, this is very important because, as you'll see when I make my reed, I never ream. I don't ream because the results are not always consistent. It's very difficult to create the exact same amount of reaming each time. So I try to avoid it at all costs, and another portion is that I want it as smooth as possible on the inside of that tube. The next step still uses the piece of sandpaper and the cork. This is a little bit of a shout out to Lou Skinner and his fantastic book on reed making. I do a little bit of hand gouging with the sandpaper wrapped around the wine cork. I do much more sanding at this point on the inner portion of the blades, of what will be the blades inside the reed. By doing this, I can take a piece of cane that might be a little bit softer and make it harder. This is because a finished reed, you will scrape just the outer edge. As you're scraping the outer edge of the reed, you are removing that portion of cane that was closest to the bark, and that cane is harder than the inside of the cane. So by removing some of that on the inside of the blades, what I'm doing is I'm making a harder piece of cane. From here, I measure the length of the blades. Here I see that the overall length is 60, and I find the center of that, which is, of course, 30, and I mark that because that is where I'm going to go ahead and fold over. From here, I take the piece of cane and the ruler. I like it because it's a nice straight edge and it is relatively thin. I place that center line that I have drawn just on the edge, and I push the other edge over. Quick tip here is to make sure that you press the cane directly flat against the ruler so that it does not shift around on you at all and you get a good straight fold over. The next step for me is that I like to mark where the collar is going to be, the beveling marking, and also where the third wire will be placed. So the first mark that I make is the collar of the tube. The next is 10 millimeters from where the collar of the tube is at. That's my bevel marking. And then finally, I mark where the third wire is at, which is usually about 1/4 of an inch from the bottom of the tube. The next bit is beveling. Beveling is one of those that I have had questions about in the comments of videos. If you watched my haul of goodies that I bought for the JSU Bassoon studio, I did mention that we had picked up a nail punch, so let's dig in on how to do this. What I do is I take a piece of that 22 gauge brass wire and I put a first wire on. Now this is not a first wire that's going to be there for more than just the beveling. I will remove it after beveling, so it does not have to be perfect. After I put the first wire on, I use my fingers and open up the base of the tube, and I use that cushy part of my fingers in order to hold it open as I slip a nail pin in. I take my razor blade and I look at that 10 millimeter marking that I have on the side, and I start parallel and then I accelerate the curve as I go down so that I end up with a small triangle piece that I have removed from the inside. Now, I do this in the direction that is towards me, but there's also the opposite direction where you can flip it around so it's the facing away from you, so that you're always, if you're right-handed, beveling to the right. As you do the beveling, make sure that you hit all 4 corners of the reed. Okay guys, I hope you have found this helpful. If you see anything that you do ever so slightly different, do leave me a comment with what it is that you do different. If you liked this, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you don't want to miss any of the future videos that will be appearing, be sure to subscribe. And I will see you guys next time. Bye! So I've decided to take it to the next level and to help you out with how to create a dark reed in the forming process so that it already starts out dark. You can use a wooden dowel, but I find that oh, it's hot. Hot hair. You know, if I stand in just the right place, those lights, they look like horns. You see them? Oh, better song. Wait, they wouldn't be horns. They'd be giraffes, so they'd be ossicones. The lights make me have ossicones.